I first saw you on Tucker Carlson, and it was funny, man. It was like, it was mind-blowing. And you're very talented, first of all. I like your courage. I like your talent. And I like how you make it work for you. How did you come up with that idea to do what you're doing when you go before city councils and people like that?
Okay, well, I tell this story quite a bit, but so let me just give you a little backstory. So I'll give you like the full story. So I graduated college in 2010 from LSU. Then I moved to Los Angeles. I didn't have a job, and I got a job, like they say, I was 23. I got a job at Central Casting. You know how they say straight out of Central Casting, because I was 23 to look younger. So I started at Central Casting as an extra. Then, you know, I worked up to a production assistant, got on some shows. And then I got on this big show after 2 years in LA. It was on ABC called The Glass House, where it's like a Big Brother. You compete against each other and you vote people out of the house.
I'm just being myself. I'm just primetime 99 Alex Stein.
And the producers of that show kind of manipulated me. They wanted me to play the villain. And instead of being myself, I was the villain. I was one of the first people kicked off the show. So long story short, I got kicked off the show. I was so bummed out. Then I got offered a job in Dallas, Texas, working for the TV show Cheaters. Cheaters is a show where we go and we catch people cheating on their husbands and wives. And I signed an NDA, so I can only answer so many questions about it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say on that show, this is a real sad story. I worked there for nearly 10 years, and the host of that show is a guy named Clark Gable. His grandfather was Clark Gable from the movie Gone with the Wind, the famous actor.
Really?
This is his grandson. I became good friends with him. And Jesse, when I say this guy had a drug tolerance, I'm telling you, every day after we would be done with it, you know, we'd do a bus, he'd come back to the studio, he'd have a 6-pack of beer. He had a doctor in California that would prescribe him every kind of pill he wanted, you know, what did the doctor feel good? And I'm not saying this as a good thing. I'm just saying like I'd never seen anything like this. This guy, because his dad was Clark Gable's son, and Clark Gable, the famous one, the famous actor, he was a big drinker and, you know, philanderer. So the son grew up in that lifestyle. His dad, so the grandson, was even more screwed up. Like he just grew up, you know, was being around weed and stuff at 10, 9 years old. Even though he just grew up in a wild lifestyle. So the reason why I talk about how wild he is, he was the host of the show. We're done with season 17. I get a call from his wife. He said, Clark's dead. I said, what do you mean Clark's dead? Clark overdosed and died. I go, well, how did he overdose? The guys, I've seen him do tons of drugs. I mean, what the hell? It doesn't make any sense. Well, Jesse, he went and bought some oxycodone or some Vicodin, I don't know, you know, some sort of pain pill. He ran out of his pills that he gets from his doctor, and it had fentanyl in it.
Wow.
And he took it. He died with his 19-month-old baby and his wife in bed. And the reason why I gave that whole thing about how wild he was, if I would have thought he would die, I thought he would be in a drunk driving accident at the strip club with needles in his arm. You know, I thought he would go out in a blaze of glory, not just in bed with his baby, his 19-month-old. Like that was a night he was taking off and he died. And what that did is that changed my life, because that season I had a really bad cavity. I ended up I had to get the teeth pulled, and I got a gold crown. But I remember I asked him one time, I was like, man, I can't even go to work today because it just hurt so bad. He's like, oh, here, come, you know, have one of these pain pills. And I don't like pain pills. They make me sick, but I took one and nothing happened to me. But then after I found out that he died, I thought, man, I could have easily died. So I told him I quit drinking. I quit doing every drug. Not that I was really big into drugs, but I just totally changed my life. When he died, he was a close friend of mine. Then shortly thereafter, they said, Alex, you're going to be the next host of Cheaters. I was like, okay, well, I'm kind of sad. My friend died. And, you know, I was really, I was like, well, but this is kind of a good opportunity. Obviously, I'm going to do it. I've been working there a long time. I was the next choice up. And when it comes to hire me, April 2020, right when the pandemic's getting started, they hire a guy named Peter Guns out of New York, a 52-year-old black dude, which is nothing about it. But, you know, because they wanted to go with more of a intersectionality choice instead of another white guy, because Viacom, MTV owns it. So, you know, affirmative action kind of cost me that job, which is what it is.
What a mess.
Yeah, it is what it is. But listen, so then I decided, one of the guys on Cheaters like, Alex, you just need to do your own show. And so long story short, how does this get to me going to city council meetings? Well, then I started my podcast in May 2020. I started talking about the government. I started talking about politics. I started talking about all this stuff. As the pandemic got worse, I went to a city council meeting, but at this time it was over Zoom, Jesse, and I talked very seriously. I said, you know, these aren't based in science. You know, these lockdowns, here at this, we got this big park called Bachman Lake here in Texas. I walk my dogs around it every day. They got these public bathrooms that don't even have a roof. They're decent, though. They shut those down and put in porta potties. And an 81-year-old guy named Rudy used to walk his dog all the time. He stopped walking his dog because he said, I don't want to change my colostomy bag in a porta potty. So I just saw this. I went and spoke serious, like, man, y'all cannot shut this down. We need exercise. We need sunlight. You know, I don't know how this helps a virus, is, you know, not us not being able to go walk outside.
Yeah.
They looked at me like I was a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist, but they were right. I am that. But what I'm saying is I realized, oh man, this isn't going to work, Jess. This isn't going to, they're not going to pay attention. So that's when the light bulb went off in my head. Then the next meeting, I said this whole thing. I said, well, our mayor is a black guy named Eric Johnson. And I said, Mayor Johnson, you're trying to get the vaccine numbers up. Why don't we offer free Johnson & Johnson from Mayor Johnson in the gay community at Cedar Springs area, the neighborhood. And I said, the gay community will love the double entendre. And then I go, since you're the first openly gay mayor of Dallas, they would love that. Well, he's not openly gay. He's got a wife and 3 kids, and Jesse's eyes got this big. He was so mad. He was so mad at me. I could just tell. I was like, all right. That's when the light bulb went off. Like, all right, now I'm going to troll these people because I get my 3 minutes. I can say whatever I want. Yeah. And that is day was off to the races in. So long story short, I went to starting off going to the meetings, as a way to kind of get my name out there, but talk earnestly. They didn't pay attention. Then the goofier I got, the more I drew them off sides. Like Tom Brady's being like, hut, tries to draw the defense off sides. I try to draw them off sides, Jesse.
That's amazing. I saw the one where you were in, so let me ask, when you said to the mayor, the openly gay thing, did he talk to you later about that? Did he ever call you or confront you?
No. Well, he's brought it up the next time. And I said, and in that same thing, I said, you're more likely to die of COVID if you're overweight. And he's a little pudgy. I was like, Mayor, you need to lose some weight too. And that's when he was so he's like, oh, this is the guy that calls me fat. Now he knows me exactly who I am. Right. But the meeting, he's like, oh, this is the guy that calls me fat. So he's just, what I realize is these politicians, it doesn't even matter if they're at the lower level, they all have this self-righteousness, self-importance about themselves. And this is the thing, is they are what we call in the video game of life NPCs, non-playable characters. Like you want to interact with them. When you press the controller, you want to press A, but they don't want to interact with you. So I realized the way to interact with them is you got to shake them. You got to shake them up like a cocaine. You got to get them all sides. You got to get them like emotionally invested in what you're saying. And then you can start to play them like a video game.
Very smart. I remember in watching your videos, I remember we used to go downtown Los Angeles to confront city councils or the school board members, and they act as though we were not there. They just walk around.
On their phone.
Or they look.
They're on their phone the whole time. Yeah, they don't pay attention to you.
And so like, wow, what an amazing way to get their attention. And I could see that they don't know what to do when you're up there speaking and doing your thing. They're like, they don't know if they should have you sit down or yell at you or what to do. And so it's amazing. I saw this.
I just want to say this. This is why it's effective, though, Jesse. And this is what I realized. But this is what I didn't create this term. Other people started calling it this, and now this is the proper term. It's called culture jamming. Culture jamming. You're taking the most absurd parts of our culture that they have to agree to, like this abortion thing, and you go up there and you act like you love abortion because that's sick. We're killing babies in the womb in California. They want to kill a baby up to the 9 months. And if you go up there and you talk, oh, I love abortion. It's so cool. What you're doing is you're jamming their crazy, insane culture in their face, because when you hear them talk about the media, they always kind of obfuscate that and be like, oh, it's women's right, it's women's healthcare, instead of, oh, we're killing a baby at 9 months. So when you go and you actually talk about what's really happening, what their political agenda really is, you culturally jam it in their face, and then they're kind of like, wow, it gives them a different perspective.
Yes. And so now that they know you, when they see you coming, do they prevent you from coming up, or do they allow you still to come up?
Well, no, they got to let you come up. That's the Supreme Court. It's they have to. Your First Amendment right to speak. Now, if you say, like, if I went up there and I said the N-word, or I was just cussing about, like, you can cuss a little, not that I do, but I see, because I would go, Jesse, I would see people that would go up there and cry and be like, my neighbor's house caught on fire. Then the fire department got there and somehow my house caught on fire. The fire department didn't do a good job, and they're crying. I lost everything. My cat died. And they just look at you like you're nobody. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so sometimes I would see people get cussed, be like, oh, F you. And they don't kick you out for that. But technically, they could, if you said something like horribly, really profane, theoretically, they could ask you to stop. But as long as you kind of color within the lines a little bit, they have to give you your 3 minutes.